Hey guys, I'm popping in today to talk about resistance. Resistance is something that we actually talk about a fair amount in the Comprehensive Copywriting Academy, and the reason is because anytime that we are getting outside of our comfort zones, anytime that we do anything new, resistance is going to come up. If you haven't read Stephen Pressfield's The War of Art, I strongly recommend it. Very short little book, but it's also one that you're probably going to want to come back to again and again. So pick it up, buy it. But he coins the term resistance, and because it's such a good one, we use it in the group and throughout the course. But resistance is that thing that holds you back from doing what intellectually you want to do. You want to build a freelance business. You want to apply for a position. You want to pitch clients. You want to do all this kind of stuff. But there's just something that's holding you back. And that's really what resistance is. And one of the things that Stephen Pressfield says is the great thing about resistance is that it's like a compass pointing north. I'm totally getting this quote wrong, and I probably should have looked it up before I started. But he says that it basically resistance comes up in the direction that you should be heading. If it's not something that matters, resistance isn't going to come up. But if it's something that actually matters to you, matters to your life, matters to your growth and development as a person, then you can 100% count on the fact that resistance is going to come up. The cool thing about that then is that even though we don't like resistance, you can know that when it does come up, it means that you're actually heading in the right direction. Like we don't feel resistance about sitting on the sofa and eating Cheetos. I feel like that's always my example, but I just secretly always want to spend my time sitting on the sofa and eating Cheetos. I can't even let myself have Cheetos in the house. They're too good. But resistance doesn't come up when it's Netflix time. Resistance comes up when it's time to work on your portfolio site, or resistance comes up when you're thinking about asking somebody out, or resistance comes up when it's time to go to the gym, or resistance comes up when you sit down to work on your novel. Resistance comes up in the important times. And I think that unless we are aware of that, we can see resistance as a sign that we're not headed in the right direction, when actually resistance is a sign that we are headed in the right direction. The thing is that as adults, it's not often that we have to learn something new and we have to try something new and we have to get back to that beginner mindset. And so it can really throw us when that resistance comes up. We all start with motivation and we're really excited. We're like, this time we're going to make that change, and yeah. But the problem is motivation disappears. It dissipates. By its very nature, motivation dissipates. And I think that some people think that, oh, well, the motivation is gone. Maybe this isn't meant to be. Maybe this isn't. But the thing is, you can't rely on motivation because it's going to wane. And then, unless you have a plan in place, it's going to be replaced by very persistent resistance. And the thing too about resistance is that it is so tricky. It is insidious. Yes, sometimes it's very obvious and it says, you can't do this, you're not doing a good job, da 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 da. But sometimes it can be very tricky in that it can say things like, oh, you know what? You have been working so hard lately, and you're trying really hard, but maybe you should just take today off. And you know what? Maybe you should take tomorrow off. You know what? Like maybe just like not the rest of the week. You don't need to deal with this week, right? Like oh. But here's the thing: and yes. Don't get me wrong, we all need to take good care of ourselves, but if that voice is taking you further away from your goal, that is not a helpful voice. That is a very tricky voice of resistance. The thing to remember is that if if no matter what that voice is saying and no matter how it's saying it, if it is pointing you in the direction away from your goal, then that is resistance and it's not something that you should rely on. One of my favorite phrases is don't believe everything you think. And I think that sometimes a lot of us assume that because it's in our heads that it's real, right? Like, well, I tried this and I'm struggling at it, so I'm not good at it. So, and when that pops up in your head, often without realizing it, because we think it, we assume that it's true. And there are actually very few things that we think that are literally true. Most of it is just interpretations. And so don't believe everything you think. When that voice pops into your head and says, oh, you know what, maybe you just weren't meant to do this. Your old job wasn't that bad. Maybe you should go back there and see if there's still, or whatever. But I want to challenge you to pay attention to what these voices in our heads are actually saying. And first of all, whether or not it is helpful, whether it's pointing you in the direction of the life that you want to lead, or whether it's pointing you in the direction of the life that you're maybe trying to leave behind or trying to grow past. Because if it's pointing you in the direction that you want to go, then great, listen to that voice. But if it's holding you back, if it's trying to get you back on the couch with Cheetos, that is the voice of resistance. Again, much as I would love to listen to that voice, you don't, literally everything that we want is outside of our comfort zone. Our dream careers, the income we want to make, the amazing life that we want to lead, the significant other who is perfect for us, everything. I mean, your children outside of your comfort zone, all of that stuff is outside of your comfort zone. So if you listen to that resistance, it's going to take you away from the things that you want. If you listen to the guidance of your resistance, it's going to point you into a smaller, less fulfilling. I was going to say mediocre, and I don't want to come across as too judgmental. But a smaller life. That's what our resistance is designed to do, is to keep us in this small, safe little life where it's well within our comfort zone, where really we work at a job that is okay. We can do it. We don't have to stretch ourselves, and it's that kind of life. But who wants to lead an kind of life, right? Like, that's not what we dreamed about when we were little kids. What do you want to do for a living? That's not at all what we dreamed of. So I want to challenge you to pay attention when that resistance voice comes up, and really listen to it and evaluate the things that it's saying. Is it literally true? I would say vast majority of the time it's not, especially when it's saying things like I can't or you can't. You guys may already know this. I can't stand. I will, hate's a strong word. I'll say it. I hate the words I can't, because that puts you in a state of immobility when it's actually very rare that you literally can't do something. But so if resistance is saying that to you, the first step is to be aware of it. So my challenge to you is to start to be aware of it. And then also, if you can remember it, remember that resistance is coming up in the right direction. If resistance is coming up, it's because you are heading in the right direction for your life. And as you guys in the CCA know, we have a whole mini course on how to get through that, because it's going to come up so often when you're doing important things and when you're building the career and the life that you're dreaming of. And the thing is I don't want anyone to think that if resistance comes up, that it means it's a sign you're not supposed to do something, when actually it's a sign that you are headed in the right direction. That's maybe one of the most important things to keep in mind when resistance comes up, because it's so easy to be like, oh, my motivation is gone, and now it's hard. Now I don't want to do this. Oh, it sounds crazy, but when that resistance kicks up, you should be glad is hard. It's hard for me to get behind the idea of being glad because, believe me, I know I'm in resistance just as much as anybody else is. But at the very least, you should appreciate that it means that you are heading in the right direction, and action will get you past that resistance. You will never completely defeat resistance. It's going to keep popping up every time that you want to do something that will take you outside of your comfort zone, every time that you want to do something that will lead to that bigger, more amazing life. But the great thing too is that you can move past it. It's fog in the road. You know, you're driving around and fog looks like a wall, but if you keep driving, you'll move through it. It's fog. It's not a wall, it's fog. Keep driving, keep working, keep taking the action steps. You will get through it.